All right. Good morning. It is Tuesday, April 28th. It is 10:05, and I'm going to call this Governance and Priorities Committee meeting to order. Are there any additions or changes to the agenda from administration?
Administration does not have any changes.
Thank you. Anything from the committee? Seeing none, can I get a motion to approve the agenda? Councillor James, I'll call the question. All in favor? Thank you. All right, are there any errors, edits, or omissions from item B, the minutes from the March 24th GPC meeting? All right, seeing none, would somebody like to make a motion? Deputy Tusa has it. I will call the question. All in favor? Thank you. Motion is passed. All right, we are moving right into item F1, new business, Exshaw Rail Pedestrian Crossing on page 7. Administration, please go ahead.
Thank you for that. For this report, I would like to introduce the Director of Operational Services, Bill Luca. Thank you.
Good morning. The purpose of this item is to update the committee on various options for the railway crossing in Exshaw, to talk about the costs, and my intention would be to return to a council meeting and get a firm recommendation how to proceed. So this is just a general discussion. We talked to Canadian Pacific Kansas City Railway, and they provided us with some very high level cost estimates. So the first would be $4 to $6 million to construct a raised crossing above the 2 tracks. Now that cost would be exponentially more expensive if we're going to span across the highway. And we've been forewarned as well that the approval could require us to span a possible future commuter rail track, just because it's being discussed at a provincial level. So $4 to $6 million is kind of the minimum cost, which is quite substantial. Another option, if that's a little too pricey, and I'll talk about grants and stuff. Another option would just be to build a trail and separate the pedestrians at the crossing from vehicle traffic, but they'd still have a railway arm, and it wouldn't be raised, and it wouldn't be bypassing. Pedestrians wouldn't bypass the trains on the track. So that could be, I'm a little unclear like on the pricing, but it could be 300 to 900,000. We did check with Alberta Council, and they weren't aware of any grant funding that would be available. I did check with my provincial contact for my grant streams, and she doesn't think any would be available for this type of project. The railway, though, identified another grant that could be available, and I believe that was $500,000. So the funding for these options, the MD would, especially for the raised crossing, would be a substantial cost. So just wanted to get the committee's thoughts and ideas if they want us to pursue either our or option, or what they feel we should be adding. We haven't really had this discussion. This is the first time we've provided some details.
Thank you very much. Any questions for administration? Go ahead, Councillor Smith.
My apologies, I didn't pre-write these out, so I won't be as succinct as I could be. I was quite shocked to see this coming forward to GPC already. I know that a significant amount of work had been done by a previous councillor, Mr. Elford, and I had sat with CPKC and federal entities, and we had gotten a fair distance down this road when it came to funding and what was available through CPKC, through the federal government for rail safety, and then some other entities. And I was unaware that the conversation had continued. I know that we had discussed bringing it forward, but I didn't realize it had started again, and I still have all the details. I do understand that one of the key contacts that we had is no longer with CPKC. However, the designer that we were working with, the CPKC engineer who does this, I believe is still there and still has the designs. So I guess my comment is I was shocked to see this coming forward and did not have any opportunity to give any of the contacts or info that I had. So I'll leave it there. I don't know what to do going forward. Both of these price tags are not in the realm of what had been discussed with CPKC. The big industry, CPKC and I had also spoken with big industry around here, discussing the impacts that particularly to have on the rail traffic, and working in partnership and working with them to also bring down the cost. So I don't know. I'm coming to this meeting feeling like this is still the cart before the horse, and we're not ready to make a financial implication yet when not all the information has been discussed. And I don't know how to form that into a question, but there's my opinion.
Yeah, I think I wasn't expecting to see this either. Like I knew it was on the agenda, but I didn't know what the content was. But what I have read isn't what I have been talking to you about with your conversations through your connections with BCE, through BCEC, the Bighorn Corridor Environment Committee. And I know a lot of those conversations have been happening for years. So this is something I suppose, and it can happen very easily in the municipal world or any level of government, but where political discussions are happening in the background to plant some seeds, and somehow those seeds are really important to bring it to fruition, but those seeds also need to be shared and brought into the conversation with administration. So that was missed. So somehow, I don't know what we need to do, but somehow maybe we need to have a bigger discussion about this to make sure everything that's been discussed over the last number of years, administration has that information. Go ahead, Director Luca.
So we could just accept the report as information, and you can continue your discussions at your level. We're in no rush to see this through. It was budgeted as a capital item, and we are heading into May. So if you accept the report as information, then we'll just table it for on our side, on administration side, and we won't proceed with moving forward.
Go ahead, Deputy Reeve.
Have we spent any of the budgeted $10,250?
No, we've spent nothing on this project.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Councillor James.
Yes, through the Reeve. I think the important thing for the Transportation Committee is that it did get to this table so that you understood also where the communication through administration was reaching the Transportation Committee, and then also bringing it to the council level so that everyone is aware, and that also for administration to understand this allowance there that they have in their budget so that they can table or to proceed with more direction.
All right, so this has already gone to the transportation committee?
Correct, yes.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess that maybe was when we should have. I didn't know it had gone to the transportation committee, so I guess maybe it should go back to the transportation committee, and that is where maybe you, Councillor Smith, with your historical knowledge of how this has been talked about over the last number of years, that might be a good place for you to go to that committee meeting and talk about it. I can go with you as well because I've been included in some of those conversations as well, but just to get them up to speed. But I didn't realize it had already gone to a transportation committee, so I don't know. Is that a good way to move forward with this to make sure the political knowledge comes to the administrative team?
Yes, that's the perfect way to move forward. And in that public open setting through the committee, that's a great suggestion.
Okay. Does that sound good? Okay. Thank you very much. Would anybody like to make a motion to accept this as information? Councillor Smith has that. I will call the question. All in favor? Thank you. Motion is passed. The next item on the agenda is F2, page 11, and this is the Municipal Solid Waste Services Agreement. Go ahead, administration.
Thank you. To speak to this item will be the Manager of Operational Services, Kendra Tippy.
Thank you and good morning. This report is to inform the committee of an agreement renewal with the town of Banff for them to haul our municipal solid waste. So there is no recommendation. This report is provided as information. Last year, we entered into an agreement with the town of Banff for them to haul our municipal solid waste. That current agreement will expire on June 1st of this year. In anticipation of this, we have renewed the agreement with the town of Banff for a 14-month term. And this renewal is under the same terms and conditions with an approximate 2.1 CPI increase to the cost per ton rate. The CPI cost per ton increase was approximately $3.46, and this will need to be considered when planning for future operating budgets. There's no impact to service delivery. Everything will maintain current service levels and status quo. And I can answer if there's any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Go ahead, Councillor Smith.
I have one. I'm not sure if it's related. You can tell me to move on. I'm still trying after so many years to understand fully and completely the circular economy program that the province is bringing out. And while I thought I had a good grasp of it, and knowing that Banff is already listed as one of the first in on this, do our recyclables and the circular economy stuff go to Banff with this agreement, or is it provincial? Can you clarify, or is this not the time and I need to bring my question forward later?
No problem. So the circular materials program is for recyclables. And so that's a totally different conversation. This is for municipal solid waste. So this is for our garbage. So this is for Banff to pick up and haul just the garbage. The the circular material stuff, that's a totally separate agreement and process.
Okay, I just didn't know if, because back in the day, Banff, we had an agreement with recyclables and solid waste, and I didn't know if those were two separate entities now or still together, or so two separate. Thank you.
Thank you. And I have a question that gets asked often of me from the public, and it'd be a good time to ask that question, but where does our solid waste go to?
So it gets collected from our 1A, 1X Transstore site by Banff, and then Banff hauls it to Calgary.
Okay. And which landfill is that?
The one in the south, the name is escaping, Shepherd.
Oh, Shepherd. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought it was Spy Hill, but
I may be incorrect on that.
Okay.
Yeah. That would be an agreement BAMP has with the city of Calgary.
Right, okay.
So I would have to confirm, but I thought it was Shepherd.
Okay,
Maybe it's Spy Hill.
thank you. And then have we had any efficiencies with our transfer store site or trans store site? I think we've been operating it maybe for
Yeah,
2 years now or a year
just
and a half.
curious what you mean by efficiencies.
Well, we don't have to bring our waste per every truckload to the landfill now, or is that that's what we used to have to do, right?
Potentially before my term. So previous to the agreement with Banff, we were contracting a trucking company to haul it to a Pincher Creek landfill. So I'm not familiar with the timing of when we were driving our own waste somewhere. That was well before my time. We were contracting a hauling company to go to Pincher Creek prior to the Banff situation.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any questions? Seeing none, would somebody like to make a motion for this to be accepted as information? Councillor Fitzmaurice has that. I'll call the question. All in favor? Thank you. All right, and moving on to item F3, page 13, preliminary 2026 tax rate bylaw discussion.
Good morning, Council. Thank you. I will be speaking to this report. If you don't mind, I'm going to read through it for the public just so we can go sort of start to finish. I hope it's clear. I would like to make a note that I've handed out option 1 table revised because my extreme early morning math in the report was not exact for the monthly calculations. So my apologies. There's an amended option 1 table. It is actually slightly lower than what is in this agenda package. So it will be included as a schedule to these minutes. So just in that note, when we refer to table 1, we're just going to look at the handout.
Sorry, Deputy Reeve Tusa just has a question.
Oh, sure. Sorry.
So the recommendation would come from this committee to the next council meeting?
Yes, please. Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. So I'm just going to start at the start and we'll just go through this. So the MD of Bighorn is recognized as one of the fastest growing municipalities in Alberta. We are proud to provide an outstanding quality of life and high quality services for our ratepayers. The MD of Bighorn's 2026 budget document includes details to safeguard our ratepayers, maintain safe and reliable infrastructure, enhance recreational facilities, and strategically plan for future growth and development. Investing in infrastructure and municipal services not only provides long-term benefits, but also plays a vital role in supporting the well-being of our municipality. These investments help attract tourism and foster economic growth, as reflected in the increase in the 2026 commercial assessment subclassification. The MD of Bighorn Council takes a thoughtful approach to balancing farming, residential, commercial, and industrial uses within our municipality. Pursuant to Part 10 of the MGA, annual municipal property taxes are levied by council through the tax rate bylaw and include the municipal property tax, requisitioned education property tax, seniors housing requisition, and the designated industrial property tax levy. Collectively, these components comprise the total annual property tax levy payable by taxpayers. So, the assessment notices and appeal period. Assessment notices for 2026 were sent to all ratepayers in February 2026. Following the mailing of property assessments, there was a 60-day period during which ratepayers could file appeals. The 60-day appeal period has passed, and the final assessment totals, including revisions, are included in this report. So this is the same chart that I included last year, except I included 2026, so you can see changes over time. And so you can see there are slight changes from 2025 to 2026, and the overall total taxable assessment is not quite as high as last year, 7.2% increase, whereas last year was 10.55. And referring back to our budget, the total 2026 tax requirement is $10,518,296. That does include an additional $153,000 that is being transferred to reserves. I did include a 10-year historical mill rate from the MD. So from 2016 to 2025, those are all the rates that have been set by our bylaws. For comparison, the 2025 residential mill rate is 3.6% higher than the 2016 rate. This indicates the mill rate increases have remained low over the past 10 years. So our mill rate is very low. So I thought it would just show you how it has changed. It did dip down there for quite a few years, and now it's come back up to sort of just a little above where it was in 2016. So the tax ratio again, the MGA section 358(1)(2) states that no municipality shall in any 1 year have a tax ratio greater than 5:1. This means that the highest non-residential tax rate shall not be greater than 5 times the lowest residential tax rate. The MD has a ratio of 3.79:1 for the past 2 years, and administration recommends keeping the ratio the same for 2026. Tax rate stabilization reserve. As per the audited 2025 MD of Bighorn financial statements, the closing balance of the tax rate stabilization fund as of December 31st, 2025 was $654,170. Council did consider using part of that last year and decided not to, so the balance has increased due to transfers in during 2025. So I would like to just go over the 2025 tax rate bylaw. The municipal mill rates were, the non-residential was 7.429, residential 1.960. The ratio of non-residential to residential was 3.79:1. The total tax collected in 2025 was $9,442,784. And the average residential assessment is approximately $1 million, which makes it easy to do the calculations. So annual taxes for non-residential based on 2025 mill rates, $7,429. Monthly taxes, $619. Residential, based on $1 million assessment, annual taxes would have been $1,960. Monthly taxes, $163.35. This is just for the municipal portion of the taxes. As the other portions on the tax notice are collected by us and remitted to other bodies. The education tax is collected by us and remitted to the province. Same with designated industrial. Bow Valley Senior Lodging is collected by us and remitted to Bow Valley Regional Housing. So the MD of Bighorn 2026 budget has a total tax requirement, again, of $10,518,296, which is an increase of 11% from 2025. This includes an additional $153,917 in transfers to reserves for future MD of Bighorn capital projects. Included in the total tax requirement in that $10 million is an invoice for the Government of Alberta Police Funding Model totaling $282,000, representing 2.7% of the MD of Bighorn 2026 operating budget. These funds are remitted directly to the province and are not used for MD operations. So, option 1, I'm just going to go to that handout. So, this is just what the tax rate would be. It would be an increase of 3.6% over 2025, resulting in a non-residential mill rate of 7.698, residential mill rate of 2.0311. The annual taxes for non-res would be $7,698. Monthly taxes $641.51, an estimated monthly increase of $22.42. For residential, the annual taxes would be $2,031, monthly taxes $169.26, an estimated monthly increase of $5.91. Another option we've given here would be if council chooses to use funds from the tax rate stabilization reserve. Again, we just picked $100,000 as a guess. If council would like to use $100,000 from this reserve, this reduces the overall tax requirement to $10,418,296 and results in an increase of approximately 2.6% for both residential and non-residential. And the monthly increases are listed below. So those are for the municipal mill rates. The other MD rates that we have included on our tax bylaw includes the minimum tax and the garbage rebate. So the minimum tax is where a parcel's assessed value, when combined with the applicable mill rate, results in municipal taxes of less than $40. The tax amount is rounded up to $40. These parcels typically consist of grazing lease lands without residential or commercial use. The minimum tax is applied to numerous tax rolls annually and may be amended by council at its discretion. We did discuss this earlier in the year, and we determined that we're kind of average for a minimum tax, but that is available to change if council so chooses. Solid waste fees are not billed separately through utility accounts for Bighorn. Instead, costs associated with solid waste services are included within the municipal mill rate. The MD operates waste transfer stations in Wards 3 and 4, and residents in the northern portion of Ward 4 who do not have reasonable access to MD solid waste services receive an annual garbage rebate of $100, which is applied to parcels with a residence. This rebate was applied to 79 parcels in 2025, and this rate may also be amended by council. Earlier in the year when we had the discussion, I couldn't find any other municipalities that offered this sort of rebate. It's available for you to change or keep the same, but I don't have any comparables. For the education requisition, so the MD of Bighorn must also collect the education requisition. This requisition must be collected as part of the regular tax process. The funds are remitted directly to the province and are not used to fund MD of Bighorn operations. The Government of Alberta stipulates that the amount that must be collected by the MD for both residential and non-residential, it stipulates the amounts that must be collected for residential and non-residential. The amount to be collected for each assessment class must equal the requisition. Therefore, the MD of Bighorn Council cannot adjust the mill rate for this requisition. The MD of Bighorn has been informed that the total increase to education requisition for 2026 is increasing 21% over 2025, from $4,170,986 to $5,027,086. The education requisition that must be collected from the residential farmland assessment is $2,441,436, an increase of 14% over 2025. The education requisition that must be collected from non-residential is $2,585,651, an increase of 27% over 2025. Based on $1 million assessment, a residential assessment will be required to pay $2,775.27 in education requisition, which is an increase of $186.41 over 2025, whereas the MD of Bighorn increase with option 1 above results in an increase of $72.33 per year. The increase is a ratio of 2.58 to 1 for the education. The other requisitions that the MD collects, the MD of Bighorn also collects Bow Valley Regional Housing requisition for seniors lodging. The requisition for 2026 is $227,271. This is an increase of $33,471 over 2025. The mill rate for this requisition is the same for both residential and non-residential assessment classes. The MD must also collect the designated industrial properties DIP requisition. The rate is determined by the Government of Alberta, and this requisition is only applied to properties as designated and assessed by the province. The MD must collect the funds as part of the tax process and remit them back to the province. The 2026 DIP rate is 0.0728 and cannot be adjusted by MD of Bighorn Council. So the MD of Bighorn Council must pass the annual tax rate bylaw to fund the 2026 budget as approved on December 9th, 2025. That's the end of my report, so I'm available for any questions.
Thank you very much. Questions? Go ahead, Deputy Reeve.
I thought council hadn't decided on the amount of percentage we're going to transfer to reserves this year.
When we passed the 2026 budget, there were three or four options there, and you chose the option that included an additional $153,000 being transferred to reserves for 2026. We haven't talked about future years in detail yet. There's like a projection for 27 and 28, but 2026 was decided with the budget in December.
Okay, I thought Ryan was going to bring back two more options.
Just one moment. I can pull up the options from the December council meeting.
I think we're good. I don't think Deputy Reeve Tusa was here for that day when we made that council decision, but we do remember being presented with options and making the decision in council.
Okay.
Are there any questions? I really like how this report was written. It's I think going to be very clear to the public. One note though, I think the MGA either just changed or is about to change to allow the police funding model be presented as a requisition.
Thank you for that. It's pending. It's not passed yet. So for the moment, we cannot include it as a separate line. But we're keeping our eye on that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And I think hopefully that does pass and we'll be able to show the police funding model as a requisition this year, because it's honestly what it feels like. And it is more transparent to the public if that's the way it goes. Another question I had was, can you give us an example of what a designated industrial property is in the MD, just so we are clear and the public is clear?
Sure. Thank you for the question. So designated industrial would be properties that are assessed by the province. For example, the main plant of Lafarge, linear rail, telecommunications lines, all the linear assessments, rail, big industry.
So when we look at non-residential mill rates, it doesn't necessarily apply to our heavy industrial businesses.
Yes, they would have both. They would have both the municipal non-residential rate. They would have everything. Yes.
So, and that's how I understood it. But
Yes.
and then the DIP is just in addition to.
Correct. Yes, that's right. So big industry may have 4 lines. They may have the education, municipal, designated industrial, and seniors housing.
Thank you. And one other, I don't know, just example that I think would be great to add to this type of report when it does come to council is just, I liked how you included the different mill rate mill rate information chart on page 15. But I think it would also be interesting to share to the public like what some of the differences in costs are from, say, a fire truck in 2016 to a fire truck in 2026, or some of those other heavy hitting items that we're still required to purchase as a municipality, but the public may not have an understanding of how inflation has impacted some of those costs. And just as every family in Alberta and Canada is dealing with inflation, so are we as a municipality. But I don't know if anybody else could think of any other examples, but like garbage truck, there's got to be more than just vehicles, but something to kind of illustrate how inflation has changed with our costs on a couple different items over the years.
Thank you for that. I have been working with the communications coordinator for these kinds of posts, and we can include them with the discussion in May.
Yeah, and I haven't yet to do it, but I have a number of slides that were presented when I went to the Alberta Munis conference, and I know a lot of it had to do with costs that municipalities are now dealing with that they didn't used to have to deal with. And one of the slides that stood out the most to me was they indicated that in 2009, the provincial government used to be giving municipalities $623 per person. So in 2009, and by 2024, the provincial government was giving $318 per person to municipalities, and that is after inflation. So just trying to paint a whole picture here for us and the public to understand, because as we're feeling pressure with having added costs coming onto our shoulders here and to our council table and having big decisions to make, it just helps us understand the whole story in terms of we're also not getting the same provincial support financially that we used to get as a municipality. So makes it even harder to make these big decisions and to make sure that whole story is just understood with costs are going up, but our revenues are going down from the province. So I think it's just important to make sure that's known out there as well. But I'd be happy to share the images of the slides, and Alberta Munis actually has a really good presentation that they were asked to prepare based off of the slide deck that they shared at this last conference. And that might be something to share as well that sort of illustrates the difference on how the provincial government's been supporting the municipalities over the years. Are there any other questions or comments? And where's everybody at with these two options? And would you want both options to come to council, or?
I can present them both, but if I could get a recommendation for your preferred option, I can have the bylaw prepared for May 12th.
And what is the deadline for needing this bylaw to be adopted?
The MD of Bighorn sets tax rate bylaw at council in May, as the tax due date is June 30th. So we need to give some time to get the tax notices mailed. So May 12th.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Councillor Smith.
I know when we were discussing this as a council during budget time and budget deliberations as we were going forward, we had discussed whether to use the reserves or not. We didn't have the information on the increase in the education requisition and the increase to policing. Does that, to my fellow councillors, does that impact whether you go with option 1 or option 2? Is the increases to those, I'm going to call them two requisitions, but the requisition and the policing?
Yeah, if we're thinking big picture here, not just what we are costing the taxpayers, but what the taxpayers are paying overall. I'm open to having that discussion for sure. I think it's important to consider. Any other thoughts? Well, Director Gale said we could have that. If she knew if we were gonna be more interested in proceeding with option 1 or 2, then she could draft the tax rate bylaw.
I'm falling on option 1.
Go ahead, Councilor Jim.
I am falling on option 1 is a preferable, but I would like both options coming forward.
Okay. Councilor Fitzmaurice.
I am in agreement with the other councilors so far. I believe both options should be presented at council and discussed for the public at the time that decisions are being made.
Thank you. So is it possible to bring both? I guess it'd be 2 different bylaws.
We can have those prepared and draft, and we'll be ready for whatever is passed in May. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other questions on this at this point? All right, would anybody like to make a motion? Go ahead, Councilor James.
I would like to make the motion that the Governance and Priority Committee recommend or bring forward option 1 and 2 for the 2026 tax rate bylaw to council for consideration.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Thank you. That motion is passed. All right, and we just have 3 items in our information. Is there anything that anybody would like to highlight or bring to our attention? Seeing nothing, would anybody like to make a motion, omnibus motion accepting those? Councilor Smith has that for items G1 through 3. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I will call the question. All in favor? Thank you. All right, and we have nothing in our closed session. And can I please get a motion to adjourn our Governance and Priorities Committee meeting? Councilor Smith has that. I'll call the question. All in favor? Thank you. Motion is approved and our meeting is adjourned.